My name is Rob Morales, RCO Network, here on Wednesday, way past the 2 o'clock hour, but it was well worth it, this hour we've been preparing for today's show. I'm with my co-host today in the Inner Journey, Miss Mary, sometimes Heather Van Alstyne. There she is, the beautiful, the one and only, the forever and ever. You'll remember her not just today, but for the rest of your life.
Hopefully.
Again, Rob Morales with Miss Mary, RCO Network, coming at you at Studio 110 here in Phoenix, Arizona. Looking at the inner journey, the emotions and the things we go through as people to really understand ourselves, not only in business, but who we are, and moving forward and understanding life. I think as we understand life and as we understand these things called emotions, we become stronger people, not only for ourselves, but for our family, our business, and everything else that manifests from that. Do you agree, Miss?
I definitely agree.
So we come at you every week talking about different things, different emotions. If you're watching us live, hit that love button because you love to watch us. If not, you just like looking at Mary, because nobody's looking at me.
Yes, they are. Yes.
A couple, certain few. But if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and watch us make fools out of ourselves or find something very insightful.
We may say something good once in a while. I don't know.
Every so often something comes out, but I think, Mary, you need to get over yourself.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I know, I'm so full of myself.
We talked about today's show being more about understanding our survival mechanisms and the things that really make us the base human selves versus the more kind of cerebral, more mindful self. Where we're talking about different things. We're talking about a lot about relationships, but we won't get into anything too specific. But I mean, that permeates everything that we do. Our relationships with people, in business, personal relationships, everything permeates the acknowledgement of having somebody else in your life.
Yes. Well, I just went back to this thought. I flashed back to this thought that I had of a post of a thought I had the other day about how the meaning of life to me recently has become the meaning of the strength of my relationships, the quality of my relationships determines the quality of my life. That's how important relationships are in every aspect, with your clients, with your children, with your family, with your intimate partner, with everyone. And it's, the more that you're able to level that up, the better your life becomes in general. And that's how important relationships are. So no wonder we talk about them so much.
Because everything we do ties around doing something for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not so much doing it for ourselves, because we could figure out things for ourselves a lot. And in the times I've been single and the times I've been by myself, it's always that yearning to do something for somebody else. And it's not even in a sexual way. It's just it's to have somebody in your life. Somebody within an intimate range. It could be a mother, it could be a father, it could be a close friend even. It doesn't have to kind of permeate into a sexual relationship, but everything we do sometimes ties back into that. But what we're here to try to figure out, I think, at the end of the day, is really understanding these emotions and why they come back to these same kind of issues all the time. And I think what it ties back to is survival.
Yeah, well, survival and the different levels of brains that we operate from, right? Yeah. The different level of brain that we operate from, which we were talking a little bit earlier about, is this reptilian brain, I think they call it, right? This survival instinct, the need for food, shelter, water, sex, and is that all of them?
That's the base ones, yeah.
Did I say sex? I meant procreation.
Well, it's the same. Well, it's a continuation of species.
Yeah, the very primal, biological needs that we have as humans that date back, to thousands of years, is we can be controlled by those if we're not aware of those things, like these instincts that come through us and come through our DNA and how we interact in relationships. And
we put so much pressure on ourselves to be involved in those things, even to our own deficit sometimes. We put pressure on ourselves, even if it's a relationship that's not really self-serving for what our needs are.
Yeah, the need to appease others, I think, is that.
Well, because we're very primal, and we've learned through that kind of primal instincts that having a community, developing a community, putting people together, the hands of many are way better than the hands of few. Yeah. We build things as a community together, and we can't do that unless we trust somebody, unless we extend ourselves to somebody else and place that trust in their hands. And even to our own disappointment, we need people in our lives continuously, and we continuously faced with disappointment too, because their needs aren't necessarily matching what our needs are all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe.
maybe not.
So those are the things that cause us stress, and it's a failure of ourselves to not recognize how much stress we're putting on ourselves. And when we're involved in a relationship or with a friendship or whatever it is, kind of that's serving of our needs, we put that pressure on ourselves to either do more or to distance ourselves to test that relationship. And I think that goes for any kind of relationship. So you put stress on the relationship to see if they're going to stay with you, and you withdraw to see if they're going to stay with you. So it goes back to John Bowlby and talking about the anxious relations type versus the distant kind of personalities in relationships.
And that can be so detrimental too, because I can tell you that the relationship, a relationship that I was in for a while, he basically told me that's what he was doing. In the end of the relationship, when all was said and done, we were cordial, and he told me he recognized that he was testing me to see how long I would stick around. As far as when he distanced himself, or when he pushed me away, or when he would, do things to try to cause ripples in the relationship. Like, how much do you love me? Are you really going to be there forever, like you say you're going to be? And that's very damaging. Yeah. Well,
we do that subconsciously too. I think some of us, a lot of us, are on auto programming 90% of the time. When we don't feel something's right, there's one of two ways we do it. We make a scene out of it, make it a bigger deal out of something very benign that it really needs, like taking out the trash, yelling at your spouse for not taking out the trash or something, they didn't do, which really had nothing to do with taking out the trash, or being so quiet and reserved that in a moment where
withdrawing,
you withdraw and you hold back those thoughts and then bring them up like 2 years later, and you're like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and I'm like, well, why are you telling me now? That was like 2 years ago. You're holding that in like this little reserve, like, I'm going to be mad at you later, a reserve box in order to blame you for it later, because I it's not that big of a deal, but I need something to fuel my anger that's building up inside me. It's such a strange thing being human. I will say.
Yeah. Let's not be human anymore. How about that?
But that's the whole thing behind mindfulness.
It really is.
We talk about mindfulness all the time, and you reassert that with me all the time.
Yeah, and mindfulness is so very important, and it allows us to learn about ourselves, and allows us to change behaviors that maybe are self-destructive or destructive to others. And then I had a thought.
Yeah.
It disappeared. It's going to come back, though.
It always comes back.
No, that is the thing. And not just, here it is, not just mindfulness, but this desire or drive to continue to grow. Because when we're not in growth, we're in decay. So we're slipping back to old programming or old ways of being, or even the biological, animalistic programming that we have, instead of moving forward and learning how we can grow, change, become more mindful, become more aware, because it's all about awareness of what we're thinking, awareness of what we're doing, and not just being on autopilot. That was my thought.
Yeah, and in terms of this show, I do want to digress to everyone watching. We bring you the show to really impress upon you that you're not alone in this whole process. We're just two people that have discovered each other. I really appreciate Mary, because we talked about it before the show. Having a space where it's just non-judgmental, I can pretty much tell her anything, and she wouldn't hold her finger, like, you should do this. I mean, that's a nice place to be. That's a tremendously strong friendship to have. And I bring that up because we want to provide this show for you guys in order to kind of explore those things, to make you a stronger person, not only for yourself but the people around you.
Yeah, exactly.
So being mindful, are there certain ways that we can be mindful, Miss Mary?
Yeah. Yes, there are. Well, I think that we live in a state of overwhelm all the time. And when we go into this state of overwhelm, what tends to happen is our whatever past programming or the what are we calling it, the reptilian brain, the instinctual ways of reacting, those kind of take over. And so the more that we're distracting ourselves with TV, music, overloading our plate full of things,
Yeah.
it's like we don't even hear our own thoughts. We don't hear these thoughts. We don't feel these emotions, which are like the guidance system for our life.
Yeah.
So the question was, how do we become more mindful?
Yeah.
I was describing how we live
certain
in a state of non-mindfulness. So the tip, I think, is to slow down.
To slow down.
Slow down. Take a couple things off your plate. Turn off the TV, right?
Well, and I will say that's one of the first things that I did, in my journey, and really life is about a journey. We always like pin these like events in our life as a beginning and an end, and we believe our lives should be a movie where it has a finite beginning and a finite end. But even in movies, life continues. There is no like beginning and end to anything. Even in movies, it's not always a happy ending. If anybody watches The Secret, it's not always a happy ending. But we strive for that. We want that beginning and end, like almost like a book. And
we want to arrive at a destination instead of realizing the destination is the journey.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even the pain and the struggle, you don't really realize, especially through my divorce too. I didn't really realize how much I was benefiting from all that pain and all that suffering that I was going through. I mean, there was a good, I would say 3 months where I was an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. I was literally drinking 1 to 2 bottles of wine a night, right after the divorce started, and I didn't realize the position I was in. But as I reflect back, I'm like, those were some of the best foundational moments of where I'm at today.
Yeah.
But it also took a tremendous amount of strength to pull out of that.
Yeah.
And I know you've been through similar struggles too, where it's like once you hit the wall, once you get to that point, it's like, okay, I got to pick myself off, because there are so many people that can just stay there and just remain there, and that's not a good place to be. Life is continuous. Life is like a river; it keeps flowing. It doesn't stop. And neither should you. And even in your moments of most stress and strife, you should just figure out ways to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Even if it's very painful.
Even if it's very painful. And I was just thinking about this earlier today when I thought, I had the little calendar quote. I don't know if you saw it on Facebook. It was like, find joy in everything that you do, right? And I was thinking about that. No, don't.
I can't pull it up.
You can if you want, but I was thinking about that. It's like, the way that I reprogram my subconscious mind, because it's all about learning and growing. It's all about these little games that I play to, whoa, you're pulling up my story.
Let's go crush it. Sorry.
We're crushing it, and now I lost my train of thought. But no, it was about finding joy in every little moment, including every conversation, every interaction. That one, the one where I'm holding up the calendar thing, and every challenge. And it was like, what's one thing that I do to reprogram my subconscious mind, because that's what all of this journey, that's what all of the tips you and I have. It's about how do we kind of reprogram and make a little bit of a shift in our life. It's just asking myself, like, how do I find joy in this moment? What is there to learn in this, situation that may not feel so good? Like, what it's seeing everything as an opportunity. It's just a little shift, right? From victim to I am in control of my destiny. And so that's kind of, for me, what that whole...
Well, and I think people tend to struggle with finding themselves and making those decisions. I think at the end of it, as we've discussed and as we've gone over a million different times, I think people struggle with making decision between having somebody in their life, between job opportunities, between, even knowing when to say no to their kids, even, making decisions and sticking to them. I see people struggle so much in making the decision, whether they should stay in a relationship or not. I did that for several years. It was like I remember year like 9 in my previous marriage. I'm like sitting there at my kitchen table wondering, okay, so we have our trip coming. We have our 10-year reunion or 10-year anniversary coming up. And if this isn't good, then I'm going to end it. And then 2 years later, you're still there. You're still questioning yourself. It's because I was in between decisions, and I should have stuck to that decision, because the person in my life left me. And I really wish I would have made the decision earlier, because I could have salvaged those 2 years. But then again, I look back and realize, that was all meant to happen that way.
It was, yeah. And it's also a lesson in following your intuition. I have been in very similar situations.
Yeah.
The relationship that I ended, the last relationship that ended for me was something that the intuition in my gut told me within 1 year wasn't meant to be. And that really ties back into the mindfulness aspect of this entire conversation, which is if slow down and listen to what is happening within you so that you can start getting in touch with your intuition, so you can start hearing that inner voice that's attempting to guide you versus drowning it out with everything that you're doing to distract yourself, and just sit and be quiet. You'll really learn a lot about you, which is the whole goal of the inner journey, right?
Yeah, and I think people again struggle with a decision because they've made a life with somebody.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, you know, I have these kids, and you know, we have this house, we have all this money together, you know, but you really only have one life at the end of it.
Absolutely.
You know, and that one life weighs out, and all those indecisions between staying with somebody and staying in that situation, and that's where I contemplated for so long too. And it's you know, and the funny thing is, I didn't want to leave that because I didn't want to leave what I'd built.
Well, even though it was not a happy situation for you, it was comfortable.
Yeah.
And the thing with people is that most often we get stuck to what's comfortable versus, you know, there's this scary space in between what, you know, letting go of what's comfortable in order to go for what we truly desire, right? Yeah. And that space in between is a very scary space. So we attempt to hold on to what's comfortable, even if it's to our detriment, even if it's to, you know, our misery, right? And so, I mean, that is a very sad and tragic thing. Yeah. And we've all been there, and without going there, we don't have the opportunity to go, no, I'm not doing that again. You know, I'm going to make the choice, make the decision fast. Maybe a little faster the second time, and maybe next time it's a little faster. But that's why the whole thing is a journey. You know, we have to experience these things in order to. It's kind of like with your kids. Got to let them fall down, so they can feel it.
Well, it goes back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. We talked about variety and certainty. You know, there is a basic human need for certainty. You know, we need to know what time we're waking up. We need to know we have a house. We need to know we have a partner. And then there's that variety part where that exciting, that crazy, you know, thing that, you know, brought us together, or not knowing where to go. That need is just as strong as the certainty in our lives, and it permeates everything that we do. You know, when we have one, we want the other. You know, it's just so strange, and you know, we come across people in our lives that fulfill both, and then over time, it just kind of like fills in one. There's always balance. You know, there's never together, I don't believe, because we were talking about that earlier too.
Yeah, and this is where we differ a little bit.
Well, it's because we're in different spots in life right now.
Exactly. Well, I mean,
without getting too specific.
Yeah, without getting too specific, but I also believe that if you get lazy, life sucks. Yeah. Right? If you get lazy in anything, life sucks. And comfort equals decay, and you know, and so like for me, it's always about what is the effort, what is the effort, the extra something special that I can put into this, whether it's my career, whether it's my kids, whether it's my relationships. It's like, how can I create a little bit of uncertainty with something that is so certain? Like, these are my children, this is our life every single day, but maybe I do something a little bit of crazy one night to mix it up a bit. Like, I think with action and with effort, we can create that balance of, we have the certainty and security, yet we still have the uncertainty because we're willing to do things to take it to that next level, do unexpected things, you know, and that's me. I get a little crazy out of the box in every area of my life, and that's how I create that uncertainty.
Is there anybody out there that's feeling that? I mean, the people that are watching right now, is there anybody out there that feels like they have everything so secure in their life that they need that little bit of variety, they need a little excitement, or on the other side where they have the excitement, but they need the certainty? You know, if there's any comments or questions, we'll take them. But
and I've absolutely been there, and that to me is. That's not the fun place to be.
Well, you're a lot of exciting. You know, we talk about like, you know, things that, you know, we can't really talk about here. But, you know, there's a lot of things out there to explore. And when you find somebody that's really kind of offers that sense of excitement and variety, which is every new relationship. You know, anybody new you meet, you know, like even if it's a business relationship, oh my God, this person's really gone so far and they've made all this money, and you don't really know, but the way they present themselves, the confidence, everything else kind of buys you into that. You know, and just like dating too. It's like you got to put your best foot forward. You usually don't go out in your blue jeans and your ripped up T-shirt. You know, when you're meeting somebody for the first time, it's usually the kind of one of the better, or if not the best outfit you have. You know, well, why do we do that? You know, because we're enticing somebody to like us at the end of the day, which is a very basic survival mechanism. We want people to like us because we're trying to build a community. Yeah. You know, and it isn't until we really discover a lot of these things of ourselves that, you know, relieve some of the frustrations and stress in our life. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect, and we're not. Yeah. You know, and if we just created a community, which is what we're doing here.
We are. We're all okay. I'm okay. You're okay. We're all okay.
I didn't shave today, you know, or, you know, I'm not wearing the best of, you know, I've gained like 20 pounds since whenever, you know, since COVID. But I'm just always going to be myself. I try to, but, you know, when I meet somebody for the first time, I always kind of put that best foot forward. And I know that I don't necessarily need to. I can just be myself. And if I was the best self all the time, I might be better off. I don't know. But I'm not always the best self all the time.
Yeah, when you're your authentic self, that is the best possible thing. Yeah. The best possible outcome. Yeah.
But the idea is that the idea behind everything we're talking about today is about going back to the survival mechanisms. We put our best foot forward because we want people to like us. Because again, we're trying to build that sense of survival. We're really egocentric. We're really ego driven in everything we do in our lives. You know, we say it's for our family. We say it's for, you know, whatever. It's for our, it really comes back to our own ego. And until we recognize that we do things for ourselves, can we really help other people do things for themselves? Yeah. You know, that's the struggle. And being mindful of a lot of these things, separating yourself from TV.
Take some space.
Take some space. Meditate.
Learn yourself. Meditate.
You know,
do some yoga. Walk in nature. Pet your dog. Take some space. Don't overload your plate. Don't always have to be doing something. Don't be connected to your phone 24/7. You know, take some space.
But I need clients. I need to.
Oh, I have a bunch of text messages. We gotta go.
All right, we're almost done with the show.
I'm just kidding.
But I mean, and that's really, like I said, the struggle is between those decisions. Mm-hmm. You know, so we wanted to reach out to you guys today and just talk about these things that we go through as people. And I'm very fortunate enough to find Mary in my life. I think everybody needs a Mary in their life. But
and a Robert.
Well, you know, that too. But for me, I need a Mary in my life. For somebody that I can really share these moments with and really feel like myself. You know, and I think that's a struggle for everybody else to really find somebody. Because even in the relationships, I think a lot of people out there, again, if you want to make a comment, I think people out there struggle to really be themselves with the people that they love the most, because if they reveal that truth, if they reveal that they're pained by somebody else, then they may not want to be with them anymore.
Yeah, it's a fear of not being liked.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those basic survival things. You know, if you're not liked, this goes to public speaking. This goes to, like, you know, what you post on Facebook, to everything that you want people to like you because you want to survive. And that goes back to the very core of who we are as people. And once you start recognizing these behaviors, can you really kind of have a sense of like strength and be, you know, courageous in the things that you do. You know, it takes somebody very mindful of these things to really understand and to really move forward in life with anything, with a relationship, with a friendship even. You know, sometimes people hold back even with friendships. You know?
With friendships, careers, with everything, and it's a shame. Yeah. So once we have a world where everybody can be authentic and realize we're all just people running around, you know, facing the same problems, that we can, you know, band together and just live peacefully. I mean, that's the goal. Yeah. That is the goal.
So what have we learned today, Miss Mary?
Oh, boy.
We're wrapping up at the end of the show today.
I got to start preparing for this question every time. You know, we've learned that, wow, we kind of bounced around quite a bit today. Yeah. But I think the main thing we learned is that we need to take space for ourselves so that we can hear our thoughts, so we can really get to know ourselves, because knowing ourselves at the deepest level is the inner journey.
And I think people are scared of their thoughts because they know, again, if they reveal, they're almost naked in a room.
Yeah.
People wear so many clothes and
Yeah.
they don't want to really show, who they truly are.
Yeah.
But once they reveal those inner thoughts and those inner proclivities, knowing that they're all just basic survival stuff, those inner proclivities, even between, sex and food and just basic survival, we all recognize we're all the same people.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing to do. It's just like, how am I truthful to somebody? And without them kind of pointing the finger and blaming me for it. I think that's the biggest fear people have.
Yeah. And then this we have to recognize that the fear that we have that we don't know someone is really the fear that we have that we don't know ourselves, because most of us don't know ourselves. So that is.
You feel like you know yourself?
I'm getting pretty good.
I'm watching my patterns, but I tend to struggle. Like, I'm going through a thing this month. I don't know if it's my divorce from like years ago. I don't know if it's the wedding that's coming up in December. I don't know what it is. It's just this weird kind of space I'm in, and I'm still trying to identify what those things are. And I reach out to you, and you help me through some of that process. But again, there's some things that are deeply embedded that I just can't really seem to figure out. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out.
How much quiet time have you taken?
Not very much. She's holding me accountable.
That's what I do best.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, no, I get it. And sometimes it's not so much about figuring it out intellectually, cerebrally. Sometimes it's about feeling through some things you need to feel through.
Yeah.
Trapped emotion can be the most dangerous thing.
But
that's a topic for another show.
Yeah, I know. We're coming to the end, but it's almost like hearing a noise in the dark.
Yeah.
And you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know which direction. You're kind of lost and scared because it's just dark. You don't really see anything. And we're visual people, one thing. But I feel like I'm lost in a room and I'm hearing this sound. And I know it's not scary, but it is frustrating. It's like trying to go to sleep with your eyes closed and you're like, I can't get over this. I don't know what this is.
And the beautiful thing about it is it's just like everything else. It gets easier and easier. Just like riding a bike, just like learning a new language, just like learning any kind of new skill. It gets easier and easier the more that you do it.
So if you'd like to borrow Mary, it's 602-445.
Borrow me for
Mindfulness. Everybody needs a Mary in their life. So if you want to borrow mine, then it's going to cost you like $25 an hour.
How much? How cheap am I?
$58 an hour.
Okay.
$95 an hour. $122 an hour. Anyway, we're coming at the end of the show today, so I appreciate everybody for watching. I appreciate the mindfulness and for you attending. If you have any questions, comments about anything we talked about, we appreciate them. So it brings up topics for the next show. Yeah. Miss Mary, last word?
Just thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.